Hi, my name is Jimmy Mello. I love Jesus, I love City Church, and I love music. So I was born and raised in Kitchener-Waterloo by Portuguese parents. They immigrated to Canada in the early 70s. My dad, he got into business early and he opened up a bakery, so I was around food my whole life, which is a good thing. But as my dad grew into the businessman that he became, I started to see the distance from home. He wasn't home often. A lot of late nights, coming home super late, full of excuses as to where he was. Deep down, I knew something was up. I had a feeling he might be cheating on my mom. When he would come home, my mom would confront him, and my mom's the type that she will confront, and she wouldn't let it go. And that's when the physical abuse started. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but old enough to remember. And that was tough because he would come home, she would ask him where he was. And then before you know it, he would take her into the bedroom, close the door, and off came the belt, and you could just hear it. And for me, that was really hard. And my grandma was super religious, super religious. Again, Catholic faith. And across the street from where we lived was this church called St. Joseph's Church. And so she would go to every service. She was there all the time. And so I would accompany her. I enjoyed going, but I think also because I just wanted to get out of the house. And I could feel myself getting closer and getting closer to God. I can remember just always praying, like with my grandmother. Every night she was always praying. And she would pray the rosary and go across every single bead on that rosary. And we would do it together. And it was just so special for me. I felt myself disconnecting a little bit as I hit the teenage years. And I think it was a lot of influence of, you are who you surround yourself with. This is at like 15, 16 years old. They just started to get into a little bit more of, hey, let's try drinking. Let's try this, let's try that. A little bit more about partying and all those things. And so I fell in that trap. I got fake ID at the age of 16. And before you know it, I was clubbing with my older cousins. I didn't want to pursue school. I hated school, sorry, I really did. I couldn't stand it. And so I got into construction, and the money in construction was good. It was fast, money was good, and so I didn't look back to school at all. I just moved up the ladder quick. I always did what I was told, and I did above and beyond. I couldn't even function. I had the shakes so bad from drinking so much from the night before, and every other night it just started to accumulate. And so I'd get up out of bed, and as I was getting ready for work, I would swig down a few beers, sometimes 2-3 beers, and then just mask the breath, mask myself, and I'd show up to work. And the boys had no idea that I was driving them drunk, basically. And that is hard to live with for me right now when I think back to those days. After clubbing, a lot of times we ended up back at my dad's cafe. He wasn't there, he had staff that worked the place. There was this gentleman there. His name was Victor. And he was an older gentleman, around like my dad's age. And but he was sort of known as a cokehead guy. And that night he was there. And on that night, he asked me if I wanted to try it. And at that point, I had just went through a breakup. I was with somebody, my high school sweetheart. And so I was in sort of a very depressed, dark, I wasn't eating at that time. I just wanted to drink. It was like I didn't care about my life. I went down to the washroom together and busted it out for me. And then he went first. And then so I watched how it was done and then passed me the rolled up bill and I went next. And I remember I was pretty drunk, but I remember feeling this sobering sensation, almost like I wasn't drunk anymore. I could pound back another 10 or 12 beers. And then it became like hand in hand. Beer, it was booze, it was women, and now coke in my life. One night clubbing on a Thursday night, I remember I was at a club called Whiskey Jack's, and I look on the dance floor and I see this girl with 2 barrettes in her hair. I'll never forget, one on each side. And she was just dancing out there, and I just couldn't stop looking at her. She's so cute to me. And I thought, wow, I got to do something here. So I talked to her later in that day, and everything went well. And so I went up to her name is Amy, who's currently now my wife. Went up to her and I said, I asked her to dance, and she said no to me that day, and I was broken. I was like, whoa. A couple weeks later, I saw her again on the dance floor. So I gave it another shot, and I asked her at the end of that night if she would dance with me, and that night she did, and the rest is history. The drugs didn't stop. I tried to keep it hidden as much as possible from her. She knew I was heavy into the booze. She knew that I had tried the drugs. My wife and my kids were downstairs. Again, this was early evening, and they were super young then. And I came down the stairs, and I lost my footing, and I just completely wiped down the whole flight of stairs, and I landed at the bottom of the stairs, and I was just broken. Like, it was a bad fall. And my kids came running from around the corner. They were watching TV or something, and they came running around the corner. Daddy, are you okay? And in that moment, that was like a sobering moment for me. It was instant. It was like, boom. I was like, that's it. In my head, I was like, that is it. I am done with this life. But I remember my wife sitting at the edge of the bed, ready to have the talk. I didn't know this at that time, but she had already spoken to her mother and to her father, and she was preparing to leave me because I was just a mess. I was out of control. She was basically raising the kids on her own. When I was home on weekends, I was just laying on the couch to feel better from the whole week of just being away at the motel and partying with the guys. And I told her, this is it. I'm never gonna drink again. I'm never gonna touch the drug again. She knew it was from my heart. She could see that I was ready to move on, and to be a dad, and to be a husband, and to be who I needed to be, who God wants me to be. And so from that day on, that was it. And this past April, 11 years, April 6th, 11 years sober. I ventured in to become a franchisee with Little Caesars Pizza. I can remember the one morning going into my first store, the Dairy McLaughlin store. I was walking in, and there was nothing really on my way in. Things were looking great. And I went inside, and I was checking all the paperwork, collecting the bank deposit, and doing what I do. Every time I went to that store in Argentia, I was always like, City Church, I should try something different. I should. And that day, driving by City Church, it just hit me. I'm like, this is God. There was nobody around. I'm an early riser. And so I felt like, okay, we need to try this church. So I remember saying to my wife, listen, I want to try City Church. I'm going to look into it. Let's go give it a try. And I remember when we pulled into the parking lot, those A-frame signs were out, and it was just, welcome home. I was like, whoa. And then I get to the front door, and then plastered on the front door, welcome home. That was it. I was home. I walked in with my family, and Tyler immediately welcomed us. He gave us a tour of the church, upstairs, downstairs, and immediately I was nervous, my family was nervous, but the nerves went away. He made it so welcoming. I come into this auditorium, and the worship team comes out, and it's a full band, full team, and they just start worshiping the Lord. And I could feel his presence. I could feel his power. I remember feeling goosebumps from head to toe. I'm feeling God. My family's feeling God. And I'm like, I need to be part of this team. City Church for me is a place, again, where I feel like I'm home. I feel like I can let go here. I can connect to God here. This church is all about God, and that is special to me. It's important to me. I feel like everybody feels him like I feel him here. And that's what's so special about City Church to me. Hi, my name is Jimmy Mello. I love Jesus, I love City Church, and I love music.